Hey friends, I had a reminder come to me kind of in the middle of the night through a dream, and I just kind of have a feeling that this is something that any mom needs to be reminded of and to keep in the forefront of their thinking. And so I wanted to share it with you, but honestly, it just seemed easier to tell it rather than try to type it out. Um, so yeah, this is for all my mom friends. Last night I had a dream, and in this dream, I was at someone's house, and there were a bunch of moms there. We were just kind of having a hangout, chat, talk together, just like us moms like to do sometimes. The kids were there with us, and I could see through this person's house. There's a big window to the backyard, and beautiful big backyard. Tons of kids out there. I mean, like 25, 30. Like, just the yard was full of kids playing, having a good time, and just being kids. And at one point, I had looked up into the window just to kind of check on the kids. And in the back right corner of this big, beautiful backyard, there was something. It was a shadow or just something that caught my attention, and I wasn't exactly sure what it was. But I just was kind of looking at it for a minute, and then I'd go back to conversation with the moms, but then I would look out again, and I just wasn't sure what I was seeing. And it might have been a shadow from a tree or something. It just caught my attention, and so much so that I finally got to the point that I was like, I'm just gonna go step out on the back porch just for a little bit. And as I walked out that back door, some of the moms came with me. We were continuing on in this conversation we were having, and I remember in the dream feeling like my attention was kind of divided, because then at one point I saw this, what I thought was maybe a shadow. It actually started moving, and I was like, okay, there is definitely something back there. I don't know what it is. I can't see, but there's something that's there. And so I was just feeling like I need to just keep an eye on this. Like, I need to keep my attention here. But yet at the same time, I didn't want to not be part of the conversation going on over here. And so in the dream, it was just this constant of like, I want to stay connected to this, but I don't want to not see that, and it just continued on that way for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, it came kind of out into the light a little bit, and I could see what it was. And I saw that it was a lion with a lioness standing next to it. And immediately when I saw that, of course, my warning signs came up, and I start yelling at the kids. I'm like, kids, get in the house, right now, go to the house. And I'm yelling, and all these kids are kind of looking at me like, what is your deal? Like, what is your problem? Like, either they couldn't understand what I was saying, or they just heard me and didn't care, wasn't sure. But the moms, when I looked over at them, almost as if to say, hey, like, there is a lion in the backyard back there. Some of them kind of gave the impression like, not a big deal. Almost as though maybe it were like someone's pet or something, and the kids were used to seeing it, like, just kind of moving around. And at that point, I remember thinking, I don't care if it's like comfortable, like, or you guys know this thing, but I don't know this thing, and I don't trust it. And so I started yelling, like, individually at my kids, like, get in the house now. And they started to move in the direction of coming towards me. Then all of a sudden, time just kind of froze, and everybody was frozen still. The kids were frozen, the moms were frozen, but this lion and lioness kept moving around together, like, as a couple. And it was giving the perception that they were kind of looking for something, because they would go to one child and they would kind of circle it, go around it, start sniffing it, and then it was like, no, like, that's not the one. And so they just kept moving and weaving amongst all of these children, till finally they landed on one little girl. And in the dream, it was like, in that second in time, they had come to that little girl. Time began, motion began again, and that lion and lioness began to start mauling that little girl. And at that moment, then everybody's screaming, everybody's hollering. All the moms are, get in the house, get in the house. Everybody just screaming, get in the house right now. And all the kids come running. Everybody goes into the house. And the last moment that I'm left with in this dream is standing and looking at that little girl who was obviously not alive anymore. And this lion and lioness were just kind of laying over her, almost with this smirk on their face, as if to say, we got her, like we got what we wanted. And when I woke up, obviously that was a little emotional because, you know, I saw this little girl die in my dream, you know, in front of me. And but the scripture that came to my mind immediately was 1 Peter 5:8, which says, stay alert, watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. And for me personally, in my life, it was just a reminder to me that we have a job to do. We have a job to do. Part of our job in raising our children and loving our children is to be on guard for them, because they don't always see or perceive the danger. And obviously I'm talking about spiritual here, spiritual danger that could be around them. And it's real easy sometimes, I know it because I've done it, I felt it. It's real easy sometimes to almost want to take a break from all that, you know, from having just to be so strong and so vigilant. And sometimes it's nice to take a break and just relax. And not that that's a horrible thing, because yes, moms, we all need, we need encouragement. We need camaraderie. We need the support system of our sisters in the Lord. Absolutely, hands down. But we have to always remember that our number one goal is to stand guard and to be vigilant when it comes to our families and our children. And like in the dream, how my attention was divided. I wanted to be part of this mom group over here. You know, I wanted to be in on the conversation over here, but yet I knew there was something that needed my attention that I didn't necessarily want to give my full attention to, because I didn't want to lose what I was, you know, what was going on over here. And so there are a lot of things that you could, maybe connections that you could draw out of that example of that dream. And, you know, I'll let the Lord give understanding too of whatever you need to get out of it. But it's just a reminder that we have an important job. And there's a scripture that says, you know, don't give up. Keep going, keep planting the seed, you know, because at the due time, at the right season, you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up. And we have to encourage one another. And another thing that is for me and maybe for you is just because not everyone sees something the way you see it doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. If the Lord has put something in your heart regarding your children and what is acceptable or what is not acceptable, or what you will allow or what you will not allow, if the Lord has told you that something is important, if no one else seems to understand or perceive why you would think what you think, it doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. Okay, it doesn't mean you're wrong. And that's something else I wanted to encourage you in. Make sure you're staying before the Lord so that you can be willing to hear the direction He gives you regarding your own children, because all of our children are different, and all of our children had different plans, and God has ordained different things for different children, and therefore He knows what certain children need and what certain children should not be engaging in. So what works for your kid may not work for my kid, and what works for my kid may not work for your kid. And we as mothers, we have to be understanding of that, but we also have to be mindful moms. Like, we've got to be willing to listen to the voice of the Lord when it comes to our children, and not give up. Even in times when we're tired and maybe spiritually we're just feeling down, we're feeling dry, we're feeling empty. Our kids are worth it. Our kids are worth it. And the concerning thing is if we don't take it seriously, if we don't make the effort and pray through all of that weariness and pray through all of that emptiness, there can be devastating results if we're not careful. So I'm going to leave it at that. I just want to encourage you. If you're tired, if you're weary, as a mom, God can meet you where you are. He can fill you with His presence. He can revive your spirit, and He can give you the strength and the persistence that you need to stand tall and to stand firm as the authority, as the parent, as the guardian of your children while they've been placed in your care. So don't give up. God's going to give you what you need in that moment, if you don't give up, if you don't sit back and say, well, what will be will be, what they do they'll do, what becomes becomes. Like, no, we are to keep our eye out. That's part of our job. So I hope in some way this spoke to you or reminded you or encouraged you. We have important work to do, and it's not something that we can just kind of take full breaks from. We got to stay at it. And God will give us the grace when we mess up, and God will give us the grace when we don't choose to be what we know we're called to be. There's grace there. Grace, mercy. There's so much mercy at the feet of Jesus. But let's not abuse the mercy. Let's not abuse the grace. Let's stand tall. Let's stand firm. And as Peter says, let's stay alert and watch out. Bless you.